Hi guys, right, back at it again. What I've done this evening is I've remade the nose cone for the front of it. If you remember from a previous video, I said that because I had put in, you can see them there sticking out, because I'd put rubber seals on the actual lid to stop the lid from vibrating and damaging all my paint and whatever, it raised the lid just a fraction, just enough to actually make this too small. So I ended up having to remake a new one. Give us a bit of extra room, because that lid, when it opens, it actually tucks down inside it. So it's actually all good now. Very, very, very nice job done. I'm very happy with it. So that's another job off the list. I have a small list made up, not a very big list. What you see there, that's pretty much the bulk of what's left to do. That and this, which is the commissioning of it. So that's not going to take me that long. Hopefully, in the next sort of week or so, we'll be sorted and ready for firing up. Okay, right. Due to I haven't actually done a whole pile to the bike in the last few days, due to the fact that I'm still waiting on parts, and lo and behold, some parts arrived yesterday evening late. What we have here is, I've been waiting for these for bloody weeks. These are inline brake switches. The plan is, you have your brake pipe coming in here, your brake pipe coming out here, and when you put your foot on the brake, the pressure pushes the fluid up and makes contact with these two, and that's what fires up your brake light. So where they will be going is, no, this is this guy, that's the pipe for the front brake, and what's happening is I will end up cutting the pipe, and that'll be fitted in there, and that'll be wired back then into the M unit, and I will do the same up here on one of these pipes here for the back brakes. So that's basically what I'll be doing out today. I got the switches fitted for the brake lights. There's one there and there's one up the top. So I'm delighted with them. I'm still waiting on the master cylinders to come for the 3 of these. Hopefully they'll be here this week. And if that happens, we can get them installed and we can get the brakes blade. At least that'll be a big jump forward. While I had a bit of time to spare, a few small bits and pieces to do, I pulled out the steering column because originally I had a joint down about here. It was a different design I was working on at the time. I had it bolted with 2 bolts, which was solid, but there was ever such a small bit of play in it, and I was thinking over time it's going to wear down, and there's going to be more play, and I'm going to end up having to pull the whole lot out then once I have the whole thing assembled, so I wasn't having that. So I pulled it out, took the bolts out of it, and welded up the whole thing. So it's now proper solid single piece. So I'll be fitting that in now next, and that'll be the steering completely sorted properly. Right, this evening's job is, well, it'll be this evening's planning job. I'm actually not going to be doing any actual work this evening. Plan is, I want to get this mudguard. I have a mudguard here. Nice, tidy, short mudguard. Hugs the tire beautifully. I want this mudguard on here. Issues I have are, because it's a Springer front end, this whole section moves up and down. Back end here is all solid. If I mount it at the back here, it means I've got to mount it up quite high to allow for the travel on the suspension. I don't want to do that. I want this literally 5mm off the tire. So the only option then is to fit it to the Springer suspension end of it. So that's my plan for this evening. I've got to sit down and work out some sort of a plan for a bracket that will allow me to mount this to this. So that when the wheel moves up and down with the Springer, the mudguard will move with the wheel. And you'll have the same gap between the mudguard and the tire. Okay, right, today I am working on the commissioning of the engine. I'm going to get the oils in, I'm going to get the coolant in, the rear diff oil has to be done as well, so we'll get all that done. I've got 4 new plugs for it, so I'm going to fit them. So I'm going to get everything ready for the engine to fire. The other thing I'm going to do is I've got the ignition switch that came through the post yesterday. I have a push button switch for the start. So I've got to find a location where I'm going to be happy to put them and get them fitted. And if all that gets done today or tomorrow, then hopefully we'll get the engine to make some noise. But engine-wise, we're literally on the brink of getting this thing fired up. Right, I got slightly distracted today, so I didn't get a chance to do as much as I wanted to do. So the bike won't be started today. There is a slight problem that's after sort of surfacing. Got all the wiring sorted. Made up a little ignition box down here with a nice little brass knob for holding it on. As you can see from the clock there in front of you, We have ignition, we have power, everything going, but this is what I'm getting. Now, that to me, there's a brand new solenoid in it, so I don't believe it's a solenoid. I'm guessing that the starter is stuck. So it's getting a bit late now, so I'm going to leave it alone tonight. So I'm going to come back in the morning and try and unstick that starter, pull all the plugs, try and turn the wheel, see if I can turn the engine. And that should hopefully solve the problem with the starter. Okay, right, I'm going to give a quick update on the starter issue that I had yesterday. If you remember rightly, when I turned on the ignition, all I was getting was a click. Well, it turns out that the solenoid is fine and the starter is stuffed, which really kind of gets on my nerves because it's an absolute bloody... Of all the jobs to do on the bike, other than pull the engine, this is about as nasty as it gets. The starter, for those of you who don't know, is that fella there. See you can see the pointer there with the piece there with a bit of paint knocking off, a bit of paint missing off it. That's what the starter is, right? So that's got to come out. That's aside from the fact that you want to be the size of a 4-year-old and you want the hands of Mr. Incredible just to get at the bloody thing, but that's got to come out. Be reconditioned, put back in. Now, more than likely, what's the matter with it? This is one I've broken down. This is an old starter that I've had, right? That's the head that goes into the engine. That's got 2 cogs on the back of it, and they're reduction cogs. This is the main cog coming out of the motor. Now, I'm sorry if I'm not using auto-electrical terminology here. Right, this, if names are right, is called an armature. You can pull this guy out. Your brushes make contact with this guy at the back, and that's what spins the whole thing, right? You get a charge of electricity and what have you, and it fires up your engine. Anyway, these 2 guys here, I'm sure you've all heard of them before. These are brushes, they're carbon brushes. And they rub off of this, and that sends your charge, and the whole thing spins around and creates magic, and next thing you know, your engine is starting. Only in my case, it's not. No, what's wrong here is, this guy here, this is where your lead from your battery goes on. Now, if you look at any starter on any bike, the bulk of them have got 2 nuts. But what some guys do is they come along, put their 10 spanner on here, spin off the top nut, but in the process, they spin the whole mount. And what happens is, there's the inside end of it, inside there. This guy breaks. You can see that tab there. That's what supplies the main power to your starter. So that fella's stuffed. And once that fella's gone, then you've no power to your starter. I'm guessing that's what's after happening on the starter inside. It's my own fault. I should have checked it before I started it, but I spun the engine when I done the belts. I spun the engine from the crank. Engine was turning fine, so didn't even think of doing the starter. So my own bloody fault. So now I'm going to end up having to come up with some serious jiggery pokery to get in there and get the starter out without dismantling the whole bloody bike. So I'm going to sit down, have a think about it, figure out how I'm going to do this, and the next video you'll see either me jumping around the place like a lunatic, or there'll be a starter on the floor. Right, quick update on the starting issues. We have no start. Problem is I thought it was the solenoid. It isn't. Solenoid's working fine. Problem is the starter. Starter's locked up. No, the biggest issue I have is, if you look at my pointer here, which I'm using, the starter's just there. It couldn't be in a worse possible place in terms of the bike. If the bike was on its own, it's a difficult job. With the sidecar fitted, it's a right bloody pain in the arse. So I've got to try and figure out a way now of how I'm going to get that starter out of it, get a recondition and get back in. But one way or the other, it's going to set me back a week or 2 because there's a lot of work involved in stripping it out. Exhaust and everything must come off. So that's it for now, guys. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do this, and I'll get back to you, and we'll see you and talk to you later. Okay, cheers, bye-bye.